Commander Vex-Nine clicked his mandibles in what passed for amusement among the Korthak Empire. Standing aboard the flagship Eternal Dominion, he gazed through the massive viewport at the blue-green marble floating in the void. Such a pretty little planet. Such delicious ignorance. Tell me again about these humans, he rasped to his intelligence officer, Lieutenant Krix-5. The way he pronounced the word made it sound like something you'd scrape off your boot. Krix-5's tentacles writhed nervously as she consulted her datapad. According to our archives, sir, they're a primitive species. Pre-galactic civilization. They haven't even achieved faster-than-light travel yet. Their weapons are quaint. Chemical propellants, kinetic projectiles. Nothing that could penetrate our shields. How wonderfully medieval, Vex-Nine chuckled, a sound like grinding metal. And their military structure? Fractured, sir. Multiple nation-states constantly bickering among themselves. No unified planetary defense. No orbital installations. They're sitting ducks, if you'll pardon the Terran expression. Vex-Nine's 4 eyes gleamed with predatory satisfaction. The Korthak had conquered 17 systems in the past decade, each one falling within standard cycles. Some put up a fight, briefly. Others surrendered immediately upon seeing the massive fleet materialize in their skies. But this little blue world? This would be almost insultingly easy. Deployment status, he barked to his tactical officer. 300 vessels in formation, sir. Dreadnoughts, carriers, destroyers. Enough firepower to glass a continent. The officer paused, his voice taking on a slightly embarrassed tone. Honestly, sir, it feels like overkill for such a backward planet. Better safe than sorry, Vex-Nine replied, though privately he agreed. Still, the Emperor had been quite specific about making an example of Earth. Something about these humans spreading their influence through what they called entertainment signals across nearby systems. Apparently, some species were starting to admire their tenacity and creativity. Time to nip that problem in the bud. The massive fleet hung in space like a dark cloud, casting shadows across Earth's moon. Each ship bristled with plasma cannons, particle beam arrays, and quantum torpedoes, technology so advanced it might as well have been magic to the primitive beings below. Sir, Communications Officer Ithik 2 spoke up, we're receiving multiple transmissions from the planet's surface. They seem agitated. Put it through, Vex-Nine commanded, settling back in his command throne. This should be entertaining. The bridge speakers crackled to life with a cacophony of voices speaking different languages. Panic, confusion, terror, all the usual emotions of a species realizing they were about to become extinct, but then one voice cut through the chaos. Clear, calm, almost conversational. Unknown vessels, this is Admiral Rebecca Stone of the United Earth Defense Command. We've been expecting you. Vex-Nine's mandibles stopped clicking. That was unexpected. Been expecting us, he muttered. Run a deep scan on that planet. Something doesn't add up here. The scanning officer's tentacles flew across his console. Sir, I'm reading massive energy signatures from across the planet. Underground installations. They're everywhere. How did our initial surveys miss this? Because you're incompetent? Vex-Nine suggested helpfully. The officer's skin flushed purple with embarrassment. Sir, the communications officer interrupted, the human admiral is requesting to speak with our commander. Vex-Nine laughed, a harsh, grating sound. How delightfully presumptuous. Put her through. I could use some amusement before we begin the slaughter. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a middle-aged human female with steel-gray hair and eyes that held no fear whatsoever. In fact, she looked almost bored. Greetings, Admiral Stone said, as casually as if she were ordering coffee. I'm Admiral Rebecca Stone. You must be the advance scout for the Korthak Empire. We've been monitoring your approach for the past 6 months. 6 months? Vex-Nine's confidence wavered slightly. That was impossible. Their ships were equipped with the most advanced stealth technology in the galaxy. You're very observant for a primitive species, he sneered, regaining his composure. I am Commander Vex-Nine of the Eternal Dominion. You will surrender immediately, and your deaths will be quick. Stone actually smiled. Not the terrified grimace of a doomed species, but the genuine smile of someone who knew something you didn't. Oh, Commander. I think there's been a misunderstanding. You see, we're not primitive. We're just patient. Patient? Vex-Nine scoffed. Your entire civilization is barely 3,000 years old. You've only been in space for less than a century. What could you possibly, Commander? His tactical officer interrupted, voice high with alarm. I'm reading massive energy buildups across the planet's surface. Whatever they're powering up, it's big. Stone's smile widened. You really should have done better research, Commander. Yes, we've only been in space for a few decades. But we've been preparing for this meeting for much, much longer. Preparing? Vex-Nine felt a cold tendril of unease creep up his spine. You didn't even know we existed until today. Oh, but we did. Stone leaned back in her chair, looking infuriatingly relaxed. You see, about 50 years ago, we received a very interesting visitor. A Zephyrian refugee named Kelprime. Ring any bells? Vex-Nine's blood turned to ice. Kelprime had been the head scientist of the Zephyrian resistance before the Korthak crushed their civilization. He'd disappeared during the final battle, presumed dead. Kelprime told us all about your empire, Commander. Your tactics, your technology, your weaknesses. He helped us prepare. Stone's expression hardened. He also told us what you did to his people. The orbital bombardment. The concentration camps. The slavery. That weakling survived? Vex-Nine snarled. No matter. One traitor's knowledge won't save your pathetic species. You're right, Stone agreed cheerfully. One traitor's knowledge wouldn't be enough. Good thing we didn't stop there. The tactical display on Vex-Nine's bridge suddenly lit up like a festival celebration. Energy signatures were appearing everywhere, not just on Earth, but throughout the solar system. The Moon, Mars, the asteroid belt, even the outer planets. What is this? Vex-Nine whispered. This, Commander, is what happens when you give a species like humanity 50 years to prepare for war. Stone's voice carried across the void like a death sentence. We don't do anything halfway. When we commit to something, we commit completely. Sir. The scanning officer's voice cracked with panic. I'm reading weapons platforms everywhere. The entire solar system is fortified. How is this possible? Stone answered before Vex-Nine could speak. It turns out, Commander, that when you tell humans about an inevitable alien invasion, they don't panic. They don't hide. They get to work. Every nation, every corporation, every brilliant mind on this planet has spent the last 5 decades preparing for this moment. 50 years, Vex-Nine breathed. You've been preparing for 50 years? Longer, actually. Kelprime estimated you'd show up around this time, but we started preparing the moment he arrived. Project Prometheus, we called it. Rather fitting, don't you think? Stealing fire from the gods? Vex-Nine's mandibles clicked frantically as he processed this information. Even if you've had 50 years, you're still using primitive technology. Our shields can withstand anything new, can they? Stone interrupted. Kelprime was very thorough in his briefings, Commander. He told us all about Korthak's shield harmonics. Fascinating stuff. Did you know that if you hit them with the right frequency, they don't just fail, they actually amplify the incoming energy and redirect it back at the source? The color drained from Vex-Nine's exoskeleton. That information was classified at the highest levels of the Empire. How could these primitives possibly, beginning targeting sequence, Stone announced, as if she were starting a routine training exercise. All platforms, prepare to fire on my mark. Wait! Vex-Nine shouted. You're making a mistake. We have 300 ships. Even with your preparations, you can't possibly. 317, actually, Stone corrected. We've been counting. And you're right, that's a lot of ships. Good thing we didn't just prepare weapons. The space around Earth suddenly came alive with movement. What Vex-Nine had initially dismissed as space debris and asteroids began to shift and unfold. Massive constructs revealed themselves, bristling with weapons that looked disturbingly similar to Korthak designs, but wrong somehow. Improved. Meet humanity's welcome wagon, Commander. 73 orbital defense platforms, each one about the size of your average dreadnought. 12,000 automated defense drones. And that's just what we've got in Earth orbit. Vex-Nine's tactical officer was speaking rapidly, his voice rising in pitch with each word. Sir, the readings are off the charts. Those platforms are generating more power than our entire fleet combined. And the weapon signatures, they're using our own technology against us. Not your technology, Commander, Stone said, apparently able to hear everything happening on the Korthak bridge. Our technology. Reverse-engineered from Kelprime's memories and improved by 50 years of human ingenuity. You'd be amazed what we can accomplish when we put our minds to it. This is impossible, Vex-Nine whispered. No species develops this rapidly. It takes millennia to advance from chemical rockets to energy weapons. Stone laughed, a sound that sent chills through every Korthak on the bridge. Commander, you've just made the classic mistake that every bully makes. You assumed that being first makes you best. But here's the thing about humans, we're really, really good at learning from other people's mistakes. Sir, the communications officer spoke up, his voice trembling, I'm receiving surrender requests from 17 of our ships. Surrender requests? Vex-Nine roared. From our own fleet? It appears some of our captains are having second thoughts about this engagement, Stone observed dryly. Smart of them. The ones who surrender now get to keep their ships and crews. The ones who don't. She shrugged. Well, let's just say we've had 50 years to perfect our targeting systems. Vex-Nine stared at the tactical display in growing horror. His overwhelming fleet advantage was evaporating before his eyes as more and more ships began requesting permission to withdraw. Some were already powering down their weapons and broadcasting surrender codes. This is mutiny, he screamed. No, Commander, Stone replied calmly. This is mathematics. Your captains can count. They can see the odds. And unlike you, they're smart enough to know when they're outgunned. The truth was finally sinking in. Humanity hadn't just survived the 50 years since first contact, they'd used every single day to prepare for this moment. While the Korthak Empire had grown complacent from centuries of easy victories, these humans had been working, building, planning. All platforms charged and ready, came a voice from Stone's end of the transmission. Awaiting your orders, Admiral. Stone looked directly into the camera, her gray eyes boring into Vex-Nine's soul. The choice is yours, Commander. Surrender now, and your crews live to see another day. Continue this attack, and you'll discover exactly what 50 years of human preparation looks like when it's unleashed. Vex-Nine's hands trembled over his command console. Everything he'd believed about human primitiveness, about easy conquest, about Korthak superiority, was crumbling around him like a house of cards in a hurricane, and somewhere in the back of his mind, a terrible realization was beginning to form. If humans could do this with 50 years of preparation, what would they be capable of if they ever decided to take the offensive? The countdown had begun, and Commander Vex-Nine was about to learn that sometimes, legends became real. The silence stretched across space like a held breath. Commander Vex-Nine stared at his tactical display, watching as more of his ships began powering down their weapons. 43 vessels had already requested withdrawal authorization. His Grand Armada was falling apart faster than a politician's promises. "Sir," Lieutenant Crix 5 whispered, her tentacles curled tight with anxiety, "perhaps we should consider a strategic withdrawal? Regroup, analyze their defenses, return with a larger force?" Vex-Nine's mandibles ground together. The Empire didn't retreat. The Empire didn't negotiate. The Empire conquered. But looking at those energy readings, at the sheer scale of humanity's hidden preparations, he was beginning to understand why 17 civilizations had fallen before the Korthak advance. They'd never faced anything like this. "Admiral Stone," he said, his voice carefully controlled, "you've made your point. But you're forgetting something important. Even if you destroy my fleet, the Empire will send another. And another. We have thousands of ships across dozens of systems." Stone's smile never wavered. "Oh, Commander. You still don't get it, do you? This isn't about your fleet. This was never about your fleet." "What do you mean? Tell me, how long did it take your ships to reach Earth from your nearest base?" Vex-Nine frowned. 6 months. Standard hyperspace travel time from the Korthak sector. "Why does that matter?" 6 months, Stone repeated thoughtfully. "And your empire spans how many systems?" 17. 20. All connected by those lovely hyperspace lanes you've spent centuries mapping out. A cold dread was beginning to form in Vex-Nine's stomach. "What are you implying?" "I'm not implying anything, Commander. I'm stating facts. You see, while you've been traveling to Earth for the past 6 months, we've been busy. Project Prometheus wasn't just about defending our little blue marble. It was about studying your civilization. Learning your weaknesses. Mapping your infrastructure." The tactical officer looked up from his station, his face pale. "Sir, I'm detecting hyperspace distortions throughout the sector. Multiple jump signatures. Something big is happening in Korthak space." Stone leaned forward in her chair. "Commander, meet Admiral Jackson Rivers, commander of the first human expeditionary fleet. Jack, say hello to our Korthak friends." The communication screen split, revealing a grizzled human male with cybernetic implants along his jaw and temple. His grin was absolutely terrifying. "Howdy, aliens," Rivers drawled in an accent that somehow made him sound even more dangerous. "Hope you don't mind, but we've been doing a little redecorating in your neck of the woods." "Impossible," Vex-Nine breathed. "Humans don't have hyperspace technology. You can't have ships in our territory." Rivers chuckled. "Well, that's the funny thing about assumptions, bug boy. Makes an ass out of you and, well, just you, really. You see, when your boy Kelprime showed up 50 years ago, he didn't just bring intel about your military. He brought the complete technical specifications for Korthak hyperspace drives. That technology is encrypted. Protected by quantum locks. No primitive species could possibly, primitive?" Rivers interrupted, his grin widening. "Partner, you just made the same mistake every bully makes. You confused young with stupid. We've had 50 years to crack your codes, reverse engineer your tech, and improve on your designs. Our ships don't just match your hyperspace capabilities, they exceed them." Vex-Nine's world was collapsing around him. "How many ships?" "Oh, not that many," Rivers said casually. "Just a couple hundred. Nothing fancy. But here's the thing, while your entire fleet came here to Earth, we've been visiting every single Korthak world simultaneously." Stone picked up the narrative. 17 star systems, Commander. 43 inhabited worlds. Every single Korthak military installation, shipyard, and command center. All being visited by human fleets as we speak. "You're bluffing," Vex-Nine said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Am I?" Stone gestured to someone off-screen. Put him through. Another human appeared on the communication display, a woman with short black hair and cold blue eyes. Admiral Lisa Park, 3rd Fleet. Currently in orbit around Korthak Prime. Beautiful planet you've got here, Commander. Shame about all those military installations cluttering up the landscape. Vex-Nine's legs gave out, and he collapsed into his command chair. Korthak Prime. The heart of the Empire. The most heavily defended world in their space. Impossible, he whispered. The orbital defense grid around Prime is impenetrable. The shield generators alone were designed by the same engineers who built your ship shields, Park interrupted. The ones with the harmonic frequency vulnerability that Prime told us about. Funny how that weakness scales up to planetary defense systems. Stone's voice cut through Vex-Nine's shock. Commander, your empire has spent centuries building a military machine designed to crush primitive civilizations. But you've never faced an opponent who studied you first. Who learned your tactics, reverse-engineered your technology, and spent 50 years preparing for this exact moment. Rivers reappeared on screen. Right about now, every Korthak military commander in the Empire is receiving the same message. Surrender unconditionally, or watch their worlds burn. Most of them are being smart about it. This is impossible, Vex-Nine repeated, but the words sounded hollow even to him. The logistics alone, coordinating simultaneous attacks across 17 star systems, the resources required, would be impossible for most species, Stone agreed. But humans have this annoying habit of achieving the impossible when we're properly motivated. And learning that genocidal aliens were planning to wipe out our species? That was excellent motivation. Lieutenant Krix-5 spoke up from her station, her voice barely above a whisper. Sir, I'm receiving confirmation signals from across the Empire. Korthak Prime has surrendered. So have Vexanthera, Krix Beta, and the Ithic colonies. The Korthak military it's gone, sir. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of life support systems. Vex-Nine stared at the tactical display, watching as the icons representing Korthak military installations blinked out one by one. An empire that had taken centuries to build was crumbling in real time. 50 years, he said finally. You planned this for 50 years. Longer, actually, Stone replied. Once we confirmed that your empire existed, every human government, corporation, and research institution began working toward this moment. We unified our species around a single goal, survival. And then we exceeded that goal. Rivers leaned into his camera. See, the thing about humans, Commander, is that we're real good at holding grudges. When someone threatens our home, our families, our entire species, we don't just defend ourselves. We make sure the threat never has a chance to threaten anyone ever again. What happens now? Vex-Nine asked, his voice barely audible. Stone's expression softened slightly. Now, Commander, you have a choice. The same choice we're offering to every Korthak in your empire. Surrender, accept human oversight of your government and military, submit to war crimes tribunals for your actions against other species, and live. Or continue fighting a war you've already lost and die. The Empire will never accept human rule. The Empire no longer exists, Park's voice cut through the transmission. We've captured or destroyed every major military installation, every shipyard, every command center. Your communication networks are under our control. Your hyperspace lanes are blockaded by human fleets. Face the facts, Commander. It's over. Vex-Nine looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. Fear, resignation, and something that might have been relief. They'd spent their entire careers serving an empire built on conquest and genocide. Maybe some of them were ready for something different. Sir, the communications officer said quietly, I'm receiving surrender requests from the remaining fleet. All of them. They're requesting permission to power down weapons and await human instructions. Smart crews, Rivers observed. They can read the writing on the wall. Stone leaned forward. Commander, your people aren't evil. Misguided, perhaps. Corrupted by centuries of military superiority and easy conquests. But not evil. Under human guidance, the Korthak can become productive members of the galactic community. You can help rebuild the civilizations your empire destroyed. And if we refuse? Stone's expression hardened. Then you'll join the long list of species that underestimated humanity. We didn't spend 50 years building the ultimate defense just to use it once, Commander. We built it to ensure that no one ever threatens Earth, or any of our allies, ever again. Vex-Nine closed his 4 eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened them again, something had changed. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a weary acceptance. I surrender, he said quietly. The Eternal Dominion surrenders. All remaining Korthak forces surrender. Smart choice, Stone said, her voice carrying a note of genuine respect. For what it's worth, Commander, I think your people can find a better path forward. Under different leadership, the Korthak could do great things. Different leadership? Stone smiled. Did I mention that Kelprime is still alive? He's been working with our xenobiology teams for the past 50 years. He's quite eager to return home and help rebuild Korthak society. Along with several other Korthak refugees who escaped your empire's genocide campaigns. The irony was perfect, and Vex-Nine couldn't help but appreciate it in a twisted way. The empire had destroyed itself by letting one survivor escape. That survivor had become the seed of their downfall. Admiral Stone, he said formally, Commander Vex-Nine of the former Korthak Empire requests permission to begin formal surrender proceedings. Permission granted, Commander. Welcome to the new Galactic Order. As the communication ended and human ships began moving to secure the surrendered Korthak fleet, Vex-Nine reflected on the events of the past hour. His empire had entered this system expecting to add another primitive world to their collection of conquests. Instead, they'd encountered a species that had turned 50 years of patient preparation into the most devastating military campaign in galactic history. The humans had been right about one thing. They didn't do anything halfway, and somewhere in the depths of space, on worlds across the galaxy, other species who had been monitoring the situation began to take note. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy not as conquerors, but as protectors. As the species that would stand against tyranny and genocide, the legends were real. And they were just getting started.